Hello, I'm Deborah Sword.
Hi, I'm Tyson Bankert.
Tyson, I attended a community meeting the other day. There's a development planned for the inner city where I live.
Hmm.
And when I went, the community members were frustrated because they felt the planners who were holding the open house weren't listening.
Hmm.
And the planners were frustrated because they thought that the community members who were there were just uh, complainers who just didn't want change. And I was fascinated by this because everybody was disappointing everybody.
Right.
What do you do in a situation like that? This is the way planners work,
Hmm.
and this is the way community members want to defend what they know.
Yeah, and I mean it as someone who also works in that space oftentimes and really interested in how community that dynamics are operating, it 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 also continues with this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Where, well, if we conduct and engage the community like this, then we also know that they're going to respond this way. The people come knowing that they're never going to listen, and then but our community is going to keep sort of changing because we're not being listened to, right? And it becomes this really vicious cycle. And it's to me, I'm always really curious about in those positions on having been on both sides to kind of go, can we have more time to actually just listen? And sit with that first, then go to, okay, that was phase one is listening. We're now in phase two, and we're going to start doing action. It's like maybe that phase one needs to be extend a lot longer, a lot more breadth to hear what people are really needing. And sometimes the change we're looking for isn't about the actual thing. It's actually just have people felt like they've been heard.
Yes, and the other piece is for the planners, and this was really interesting to me, is
Mm,
the community members were saying, we don't mind change.
yeah.
We're prepared to have development and density is good because the alternative is sprawl. So we need density, but could we do density at scale? Could we do human density?
Mm,
Could we look at this in a new way? And the planners want to do what the planners always do
mm,
because that's what the developers want,
mm,
because
mm,
that's what the developers always do.
mm,
And so there was this mismatch.
mm,
And I was watching them not communicate using words.
Say more about that.
They were speaking their talking points and
Mm,
their arguments,
right.
and they were miscommunicating. They were
Mm,
missing because the listening didn't really feel authentic because everybody had their marching orders. They had
The
their mind,
script, the agenda, yeah,
they
yeah.
had their scripts, they had their agendas, they had timelines, and it
Hmm.
had to move on. But the communication wasn't happening.
Mm,
So what happened then was that the community members left and said, we're not going back. There's
hmm.
no point.
Hmm.
And the planners were saying, why are we doing this
Hmm.
besides checking a box?
Hmm. Hmm.
So we need governance in a different way, a different kind of leadership.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering about having a communication champion. I'm
Mm,
wondering about governance where you have a person who is trained to actually go into the community and actually hear and act as perhaps an interpreter or like a cultural interpreter
hmm.
between the developer, the planners,
Hmm.
and the community.
Hmm. It makes me wonder about what does that look like on an individual level? Because I think what we're seeing oftentimes, I might go into a conversation with someone going, here's what I want to say, here's what I need to say, here's how I'm going to say it, and the other person's receiving that going, this doesn't feel authentic. And that to me is then I'm wondering, and it's like, well, I thought I did everything right. I'm just, it's like, well, but did you actually sit and listen to what that person needed and heard? So that way then you could have a more genuine conversation. And I wonder about like what the champion that you're referring to, which I totally think is great and a great idea and a helpful way to get to a different type of communication.
And engagement.
Hmm.
When I was in treatment,
Mm,
um, for cancer,
Hmm.
I had a nurse navigator,
Mm.
someone who helped me navigate through a system that I didn't understand and that
Mm.
was terrifying at a
Can
time
imagine.
when I was very scared.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering about this navigation role, the
Hmm.
interpreter role, the
Hmm.
champion role. What if we treated that navigator like a conflict competent person who could bridge from the expert, which
Hmm.
the planners think they are, to the community members who are experts in their community?
Hmm.
What if we had a navigator with conflict competence
Hmm.
who could act as that bridge? And if you are a community member or a planner, how do you gain the conflict competence to be that bridge?
Hmm. 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 And I think and even if that wasn't necessarily a mechanism that's created by the city I think it's being able to for both parties to see themselves as that,
As the bridge.
yeah, as that bridge. So
Yes, because we need help navigating in a time of turbulence and change,
absolutely.
so that we feel rooted and safe in our communities and individually in our relationships
Hmm.
within the
Hmm.
community.
Hmm.
Thank,
Great.
thank you. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll subscribe to our podcast.